Welcome back to The Off. Thank you for joining me again today. I'm your host, Shapirian. Thank you for joining me back. If you haven't already, please consider hitting the subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it. It really helps me out. You can follow me on most socials at TheAltNFL. Crazy night in Monday Night Football. Two games that really were not close. One, the score was close, technically. The other one, the score was not close at all. And then on top of that, I'm going to go over some of the best tweets of Week 3 so far. Some of the things that are going to provoke some interesting conversations that we need to have as we're going into Week 4. It's going to be a fun episode, but I got to get through this opening segment, swallow this pill, get it over with. Let's talk about the dumpster fire defensive performance from both Washington and Cincy in that Monday night thumping that Jaden Daniels put on the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm not going to scream. I'm not going to go nuts. I'm not going to lose my mind. If you clicked on this knowing me, knowing that I'm a huge Bengals fan, you're watching the wrong video. I basically did that after Week 1 because a season like this, a game like this, a situation like this felt almost inevitable after this. You're like, what do you mean? You didn't think you were going to win tonight? Honestly, if I'm being completely transparent with you, my gut told me they were going to find a way to lose this game all week long. I felt awful about it. I felt uneasy about it. I felt nervous. I told people at work all week. I live in Cincinnati. I work in Cincinnati. We're all Bengals fans. I told people all week, I don't feel good about this one. I don't feel good about it. You needed one of those first two against the Patriots or the Chiefs. Because guess what? I will say this. I'm not going to yell. I'm not going to go crazy. But I will say this. Season's over. Yeah, it's not October. Season's over. Bengals are done. The season is over. You have a fourth place schedule. You can't win a single game. You needed one of the Patriots. You needed that Chiefs one. It's over. I mean, the season is over. Congrats to Washington. Jaden Daniels looks like a monster. I think we all knew he was going to come in and look close to as good as he can as a pro already. And I don't want to speak bad things about him by being like he's close to his ceiling. He'll continue to grow. But I think of the college quarterbacks coming in this year, it was pretty obvious like Jaden Daniels is the guy that absolutely can come in and make a huge impact this season. Even though I thought Caleb would have a better situation in Chicago. We'll talk more about the Bears later in this episode. I've got something planned for them. But with that said, Washington and Cincinnati, there's no stops all night. There's no stops all night. Full transparency, I don't normally do this. I try to have some immersion, some decorum for these episodes. I'm in here with like 2.5 minutes left in the game. It's over. I just watched that huge... They had 10 men on the field, Joe Buck said. I don't know if that's actually true. I'm assuming it is because Joe Buck is a pro's pro. They had 10 men on the field and scored a touchdown to make it a 2-score game with 2 minutes left. I'm not watching the rest of this game because I need to get this up, put this episode together, make it a fun one, put it on the internet, and go to bed. With that said, I don't know where I was going with that. Yeah, I don't know what the final score was, but there was 0 defensive stops from either team all night. All field goals and touchdowns. Cincinnati missed a field goal and then there's a missed pass interference call. It was blatantly obvious. The whole world saw it. The stadium knew it. And the announcers point blank said that it was. And that's how you know it was a missed one. It's when everyone is in agreement there. Missed PI call on a 2-point conversion. That's the 5-point swing that the Bengals weren't able to overcome and keep it a close game that like they needed to. Terrible defensive performance from both teams, truly. Like I said, my dad's a Washington fan. I knew to expect Washington's defense to be vulnerable. I expected us to attack them, and they did. I'm not mad at the Bengals offense. Too many missed opportunities in the red zone. That's a winning complaint. If you're winning games, you can be like, ugh. Or if you're close, barely lost. You say, close one. We need some of those red zone trips to turn into touchdowns, not field goals. That's not this. That is the worst defense in the NFL. I really think it is. The Patriots have looked lethargic since Week 1 and ran them up and down the field at will. And if they had a more competent quarterback, much love to Brissett, or a better weapon on offense than they have none, they would have probably scored 30 in Week 1. The Chiefs play a weird brand of offense right now. And when they play the Bengals, they seem to play down to the Bengals defense most of the time. And the Bengals offense plays up, so it's always competitive. And then Washington said, we're going to run all over this defense like the Chiefs for some reason stopped doing in the second half. That's the result. That's the game. That's why you lost it. I'm traveling to see the 0-3 Cincinnati Bengals in Carolina with treads this week, and I could not be less interested in doing so. I really couldn't. It's going to be a fun time. We'll have some fun. But that being said, I'm watching a team whose season is over in September, dude. I paid money to travel and see a team whose season is over in September. That's disappointing beyond measure when your quarterback is Joe Burrow and you have Jamar Chase, and this is the last year of T. Higgins. All we've known of healthy Joe Burrow is an AFC Championship appearance or better. Not this year. And the defense was bad last year. You heard me scream about it after week 1. I'm not going to do that here today. But the defense was bad last year, and they didn't do a thing to improve it. This is what you get. They got a lot of guys on that defense eating up money and not contributing. They got a lot of guys on that defense hurt. They have a lot of guys on that defense who are lower end draft picks, lower valued players around the league, playing big time snap counts, being asked to make big time plays, and can't even do the little things right. So I'm out of the Bengals. Season's over. I don't care when they win next week. I don't care when they magically find a way to beat Baltimore in 2 weeks and then they beat the Giants on a Sunday night game that no one's going to want to watch. I don't care. The season's over. Because even if you did find a way to stack some wins together and you're 2-4, woohoo! This defense is genuinely the worst in the entire NFL. I had a friend from school kind of grief me a little bit, telling me not to talk about the Steelers until my team gets right. He's right. I would take the 2024 Steelers situation over the 2024 Bengals situation all day. I wouldn't take the long term because we've got the quarterback. Jamar's not going anywhere. That's something. With that said, though, for the short term, for this year, yeah, they're making the playoffs, dude. It is what it is. That's a great defense. That's a great situation. Shout out Washington. You deserve it. The fan base deserves it. It's a tortured team. It's a tortured fan base. It's a tortured organization. They deserve what's going to come to them in the next 3 to 4 seasons as they continue to progress and develop, assuming they do put the pieces around them. The defense has to get better. But for now, you enjoy this win. You're 2-1, dude. Like, you take that. You take that all day. I said they might be a sneaky team in the NFC East, showing that already. So, Cincinnati, you're cooked. Season's over. Don't want to talk about it. Washington, on the up and up, and has the potential to make some noise as the season goes on this year if the defense can keep them in games. Now, moving on to Jags, Bills. Talk about a thumping. This one was not even close. I talked about how there's 3 teams in the NFL who don't have a win yet. One's the Titans, the other 2 play on Monday night. Those 2 teams lost. Bengals lost. Jags lost. Jags didn't even look competitive. And I wonder who between the Bengals and the Jags has more questions now. I genuinely don't know. Because you're like, well, probably blow it up if you're Jacksonville, right? And start again from the top. It's like, I don't know, dude. I genuinely don't know. Both of these teams suck. Both of those teams are terrible. The Bills are rolling right now. And the only right pick I've made so far in the early history of the show is probably my Josh Allen MVP pick. We'll keep an eye on that one. That's something to hang my hat on because every other pick I've made has been terrible so far. Note, as we go into this, we're entering week 4. I turn my mic off. The biggest favorite of every single week has lost outright. Outright. Has not won a game yet. And I think the Buccaneers, who I mentioned lost on Sunday, were the 4th biggest favorite overall of the entire year. Meaning the 4 biggest favorites of the year so far have lost all 4 of their games. That's got to be unprecedented, right? That's mind-blowing. How does that happen? Don't buy too much into it. Don't sell your house on the big favorite for the week. It's not a guarantee. So, big ups to the Bills. Jags. I'm curious what the reaction of this one's going to be for you all. Josh Allen looks amazing. Their defense looks really good. I don't know what the story of this one was outside of the Bills looking amazing because I don't know what to think of the Jags. So, that wraps up Monday night. A Monday night to forget for me. A Monday night to remember for Washington. And Buffalo fans, congrats to both teams. You deserve it. And that's all I've really got to say about Monday Night Football. Now, moving into a segment that I did not do for week 2 that I kind of meant to, but then I looked into it and never really got really good ones to use for it, in my opinion. The best tweets after week 3. Talking about things that happened, fan responses. Some of these are funny, some of these are more analytical. Let's get right to it. First, we're going to talk about the Green Bay Packers. We didn't talk about them yesterday, but we're going to talk about them today because they have advanced to 2-1. I talked about how you really wanted Malik Willis to win you 1 game while Jordan Love was out. And it's going to look like, at this point, by some sort of almost miracle, you could say, All the experts say 3 to 6 weeks for Jordan Love. 3-week minimum, that is. Malik Willis is going to play for 3 games. Now it's like all signs seem to be pointing towards them starting Jordan Love this week. That said, while he's been gone, look at what they've been able to do with 2/3 Malik Willis, 1/3 Jordan Love. Look at this tweet. Yeah, probably not a team that on the surface you would have guessed is a top 5 offense in the NFL. And you throw in the fact that they've been getting the run game going. They've looked okay without the guy they've built their offense around. And they're going to a huge game this week at home. Minnesota coming to town. Likely to get your star quarterback back for this one. And it's like, oh, okay. Like, I'm starting to understand, like, oh, this is the Packers team everybody thought they were going to get going into this season. This is what I was missing. It's not as much about Jordan Love as you would potentially think. Because look at what Malik Willis has done. In fact, he's got their only 2 wins. They lost the game that Jordan Love started. And their offensive totals for that game are worse than they've been with Malik Willis, thanks to some outstanding performances from their run game. Josh Jacobs 2 weeks ago was incredible. They look solid in all factors. The defense is getting slept on a little bit. They gave up a ton to Philly. They're going to get tested again this week by Minnesota. And I'm curious to see how they respond to that. This is going to be their first real test since week 1. I love you, Indy, but you're not a real test with the way you're playing right now. Anyways, you weren't testing that defense. And then Tennessee, not looking so hot for them, of course. So even with Willis back there, manning this offense, the defense is the defense. And the offense has shown they don't even really need a number 1 receiver, just like they've been telling us all offseason. Like, we don't really need a true number 1 receiver. It's worked. If Malik Willis is splitting the ball around the 10 different guys and shredding up defenses, which I'm saying, shredding's maybe a little not fair, particularly against Indianapolis. He didn't do a ton, but this past weekend he looked really good. It's against the bottom team in the NFL. This week is different, but you believe to be getting your guy back. The Packers look like a legitimate threat, and the NFC is wide open. The NFC North is wide open, especially if they do take care of business against Minnesota this weekend. So, Packers, Vikings, it's going to be a big one to watch this weekend. I don't know that it's going to have a massive impact on the season because I could see both of these teams not playing their best ball or their truest, their most realistic ball until December. It's a very Packers thing to do. It's a very Vikings thing to do as well. So we'll get a better feel for that as time goes on, but I'm looking forward to this one. Let's move on to more of a joke tweet that I saw that I can't help but talk about because we need to talk about it. We need to mention it. Chicago Bears. You know what? Let's just let the tweet do the talking. I'm not going to play the video of it because I just don't want to. I don't know how that works in terms of playing people's videos and such, so I'm going to describe it for you. But here is the tweet. They're in a Chicago bar. It's Chicago Bears fans watching the Bears game. This guy goes and asks a ton of people in the bar. I'm talking like 20, 25 people throughout the course of this video. What's the problem with the Bears? What's the problem with the Bears? What's the problem with the Bears? 2 big-time answers with this, but they really get grouped into one, even per the guy that made the video. The answer, the offense. The offense. Okay. Throughout the course of this video, you kind of got it broken down to where some of the answers were the offensive line, which are a realistic struggle for them right now. It just is what it is. You're going to have to learn to play around it. You're going to have to learn to live with it. Offensive line play, good offensive line play is at a premium in the NFL right now for some reason, and teams are just kind of having to learn to live with it. The other answer was Shane Waldron, the new offensive coordinator, the guy they brought in to fix the offense and use these weapons really well. That's the issue, according to all these guys. Look, is it a Shane Waldron problem? For real? This is a very well-traveled, well-respected person in the NFL. He really is. He's been a coordinator for a ton of different teams, or quality control coach, position group coach, whatever, really for like 15 years or something like that, right? Going back to like Notre Dame and things like that. He's been around. My bigger question with them is beginning to be what I've wondered with them in the first place. My number 1 question with them that I had going into the season. If you've been a day 1 viewer of the show, you'll know that I said, I don't really trust Matt Eberflus. I don't trust him to be the coach of a good team. And the defense has not been the problem. The defense scored all of their points in week 1. The defense kept them in the Houston game week 2. And the defense took care of business in week 3. I don't care that, Indy averaged more yards per play and ended up barely winning that game. I don't care. The defense did enough, right? For me, it's like 21 or under, you're generally going to take from a defense. And this defense has looked really nice. Really all 3 weeks of the season so far. So then you have to look at the offense and say, the offense isn't working. Is it Caleb? No, I don't think it is. He's getting a lot of the flack because he's expected to come in and be an immediate miracle worker when that almost never happens in the NFL. CJ Stroud probably set a dangerous precedent last year when he had the Texans, not even looking like they were a legitimate playoff threat last year. The Bears, I thought they were going to make the playoffs. I'm not backing down. I'm not panicking on the Bears yet. Let me be very clear here, but they do have some questions to work out. But is it a Caleb problem? Look, as of the conclusion of the Bears game yesterday, Caleb had the most yards thrown in a game of any quarterback this season. I think Dak Prescott ended up beating it in the later window. Andy Dalton is like 5th for most yards thrown in a game this season. Stupid stats. It's week 3. It's still September. This is not the real NFL that we're going to remember this season. We're going to look back on September and be like, oh God, remember how weird that was? That's what happens with September in the NFL. So I'm not worried about Caleb. I am worried about his ability to produce in this system. And look, typically speaking, most coaches, especially without a lot of success, you get like at most 2 groups. Some only get 1. I have been a proponent and was a proponent of saying, what have you seen from Eberflus to say, oh man, we love Eberflus. We love what he's doing. He's brought a great culture and things look awesome. No, you've been a disaster. If not for a above average second half of the season last year, you're firing him with no question. And the fact that he's a defensive oriented coach and the defense has been the strong suit for the Bears is probably his saving grace on his own, on its own right there. That's probably his saving grace. But listen, at some point, people like all the Bears fans in particular pointing at Shane Waldron. I get it. It's his offense for the most part. He's running the show for the most part. But look, at a certain point, the head coach does have to answer for it. How patient are the Bears going to be if this does turn into a disaster year? You go 7-10, you don't look competitive down the stretch. The AFC North is wide open so far. Are you going to be right there for it? If the Vikings are doing it, what's your excuse? It can't be talent. It cannot be talent. Yes, Minnesota has a lot of underrated talent. The Bears' talent, while it is getting used to playing with each other, it's properly rated. We know they have guys on that team. And we've talked about, the jokes of Justin Fields looking around and being like, why couldn't I get this team? What is the deal? You didn't trust me with this team? I didn't get this team. Well, he's 3-0. That obviously starts to raise questions of was he the problem? I still don't think Justin Fields is a great NFL quarterback, and I think Caleb is going to be miles and miles and miles better. With that said, I have to wonder right now if he's going to be able to flourish in this current system with this current coaching regime. I don't trust Matt Eberflus. That is one of the most stamped statements that you're going to get from me on this show, especially in the early stages. Okay? I don't trust Matt Eberflus. I don't think he's going to be a fantastic coach for the Bears. I don't like the direction he's taken this team in since he took over. I don't think he should have got another shot to run this team this year. Okay? I'm sorry to sound like a hater, put my hater hat on, whatever. I don't dislike the guy, but I don't think he's a great coach. I don't think they are doing what they need to do to turn this team into a successful winning organization, regardless right now. It's just my opinion. I hope I'm wrong. I'm enjoying the idea of the Bears being good again. I just think the NFL needs some of those classic teams to be really good, and I'm tired of the teams at the top right now. I'm tired of the 49ers, the Chiefs, and the Ravens, and it's like, I don't dislike any of those teams in particular all too much, not an abnormal amount anyways, but can we get some new teams in there? I like when those classic teams are good, especially if my team's not going to be all that great. It's very entertaining, and it's fun. The Bears are one of those teams. I've always liked the Bears. I've never had an issue with the Bears. I just don't trust Matt Eberflus. One more for the best tweets of week 3 so far. I had 2 tweets here for the Browns. This one, just kind of funny. Let me go ahead and pull it up here real quick. All right, here we are. Clearly, I actually don't know if this is a Browns fan or not. I should have looked into it to double check. I have to imagine it is, but here we are. This was just a funny one. I'm not going to linger on for long. The Browns are currently A, not good. B, not fun to watch. C, not fun to root for. And D, not fun to talk about. I actually kind of imagined that he was looking at that as a 1, 2, 3, 4, not a multiple choice, right? If it was multiple choice, I think there would have been an E, all of the above, because it's very true. I talked about my concerns from them yesterday and had them only further validated today when I saw this piece of information that is just very much condemning what we're seeing from the team right now. Look at this tweet. Yep, here we are. If you think Deshaun Watson has looked bad, if you think Deshaun Watson has looked weirder, worse than normal for a Browns quarterback, weirder than you would have expected, not able to perform so far, you're validated, buddy. That is the absolute, God's honest truth. Deshaun Watson has been terrible. Well, just how terrible. Look at the EPA, expected points added, from Deshaun Watson thus far in the season. It's not like, oh, well, he's just not doing so hot in terms of the league's best, or he's not doing so hot in terms of the all-time greats. No. We're talking about the worst organization in the NFL since they were refounded in the late 90s. Deshaun Watson right now has been the worst quarterback for the Browns since 2000 through the first 3 weeks of this season. Look at the names on this list. Deshaun Kaiser, Kelly Holcomb's up near the top, Charlie Fry, guys like that. You have some fun names up there at the top, and Derek Anderson, that's a fun one that I really enjoy. The Browns, it is a legitimate bad that you are. It is not a weird bad. It's not an untrue 1 and 2 like you see from some of the teams around the league right now. We're like, yeah, they're 1 and 2, but they're better than they've looked. They're 1 and 2, but they're better than the roster is set. No, you look terrible. You look like you should debatably be 0 and 3, but the Jags have looked worse thus far. I don't know how much longer the leash is going to be. I don't want to pound the drum for it any further. But in terms of me stamping my name on things, I just gave a pretty vindictive statement about Eberflus and why I just don't trust him to be a good coach in this league, and I don't trust him to steer this Bears team in the right direction. Let me also extend myself to say, if you haven't already caught on, I don't think Deshaun Watson is the answer for the Cleveland Browns, and I think you've got way too good of a team there to waste. Way too good of a roster to be middling and ineffective. Those are the best tweets I saw this week. I hope you enjoyed. If you saw any other ones that might be fun, let me know. You can let me know at BLNFL or comment down below. I'd love to hear from you. I'm going to talk about one more thing before I move on from this episode. Let me talk about the two-time defending champions, the current reigning champions, of course, the Kansas City Chiefs. Listen, I've heard a lot about them, and I'm just going to give a little bit of not a thesis, but just some statements about the Kansas City Chiefs. I told you last week, by the way, if you listen to this show, they're going to start 9-0. I never had a doubt in my mind that they were going to win that game against the Falcons on Sunday, and not one bit. Yes, I feel a little validated with my tweet last week following the Bengals Chiefs DPI call, where I was like, my ultimate statement, in case you didn't see it, I'll just put it back up on the screen. I'll just do that. Was this: I don't trust the referees or the league in its current state to call that equally. I don't trust that call to be called if the situations are flipped, if the sides are flipped, and whatnot. And I'll be darned if I don't see major players in the sports media industry on TV on Monday talking about, it's fine. Brady Pat said it all the time. The Legion of Boom were always, kind of a little edgy, kind of a little dirty on defense, and always, we didn't get a ton of flags called on them. What? Is that an acceptable thing? I don't think you guys understand. Penalties in the NFL are objective, with the exception of intentional grounding. I don't understand you can judge someone's intentions, but there's rules behind it. They're not subjective. The guy did or didn't commit the penalty. He did or didn't hold. He did or didn't commit pass interference. He did or didn't grab the face mask. Are we understanding this? It's not subjective. I get that it's a hard job. I agree with it being a hard job. I would want to be an NFL ref, but I'll be darned if there's not tons and tons and tons of times where I'm sitting around at home like, I could have done a better job of that. You know what I'm saying? I could have seen that better. And it's like, here we are again. 1 week after I say my issue with the call at the end of Bengals Chiefs, my only issue with it, one and only issue because I agree that it was DPI, is you expect them to call that if the sides are flipped? You think if it's close and it could hurt the Chiefs, game on the line, they flip that call? And look, before you come at me and you're like, well, they had so many calls on them going down that drive. I've not seen one call on the Chiefs in recent memory that I look at and I'm like, that wasn't whatever they called. Not often. I don't even think the roughing the passer on Chris Jones last night was a bad call. I think he was late. Yes, he was late. And by the current rule, that is roughing. You want to call the roughing on him late where it's like, oh, he put the body weight into him. By the rule, you're not supposed to. That one is ticky-tack. The one where he was late, he was late. I don't know what to tell you people. And I'll be clear again before it gets misconstrued. I don't dislike the Chiefs. I'm very tired of the Chiefs, but I don't dislike them. Guys, they always win close games. Always. But what I'm a little tired of and what I would like the narrative to start reflecting is this. I've got a point about it, and let me make it real quick. This point is, that is more of a team effort than we as a nation, we as a football fan group, the people that watch and support the NFL, have given them credit for. Andy Reid is a future Hall of Fame coach. He's been a top 5 coach for basically his entire tenure as a head coach. I know things ended weird in Philly. He was great in Philly. They dominated the NFC East when he was there. They went to a Super Bowl, couldn't get the job done. They were very good. Went to Kansas City. They were 12-4 before Patrick Mahomes arrived. I'm not trying to change your mind and make you believe something other than what you've seen, which is that Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the NFL. He is. What I would like you to do is stop just crediting Patrick Mahomes when that is an elite and deep and well-coached and well-disciplined roster, top to bottom, and has been the entire time that they've been competitive to this degree. It's coaching, it's scouting, a great general manager job. Patrick Mahomes himself has said that he hasn't played his best. It's obvious he hasn't played his best. He's like an 89.9 passer rating through the first 3 weeks. I'm not huge on passer rating, but he's well over the 100 mark usually. It's not been good. And they're winning games because they always win close games and because the roster is better than you give it credit for. That's my point with the Chiefs. Can we stop only crediting Mahomes and then crediting Kelsey after we credit Mahomes and be like, it's Mahomes and Kelsey. That's them. That's just them. Kelsey has looked like a statue all season so far. He's been a non-factor. I think he's saving some juice. I think he'll be better in the playoffs. He'll convert some crucial third downs for him. I still trust Travis Kelsey for at least this season, but it's more than just Mahomes. It's definitely more than just Mahomes and Kelsey. That is a great roster, 2 great guards, great linebacking core, dependable secondary. They always bring the pass rush. Rashee Rice is a better receiver than you realize. Their backup tight end is a starter for probably half the league. It's more than just Mahomes. That's why they're so dangerous. That's all I'm trying to say. You get these games where Mahomes plays badly and people are up in arms. I can't believe they still won. And I get that that's a bad call on Kyle Pitts, but nobody asked them to run a 4th and 1 stretch handoff play to the outside where he starts running side to side instead of up and down when they need 1 freaking yard. I'll never understand why it's 3rd and 1 and you don't pass the ball at least once, if not twice. You might think, that's not football. Well, if you're iffy on pass or throw on 3rd and 1, and you know you're going to go for it on 4th down like the Falcons did, at least do the same dang thing twice. Okay? Give me 2 chances to pick up 1 yard on the ground, or give my quarterback 2 chances to get 1 freaking yard in the air. Okay? Because then you look indecisive, right? You don't pick up the 1, then you run the handoff, and it's like, whatever. Just do that at least. At least get a little creative. I don't know why it's 3rd and 1, and if you trust your quarterback, you don't always throw it at... I mean, do I say what I'm thinking right now? I don't know why if it's 3rd and 1, teams don't throw it both times more often, unless they're in the red zone. Seriously. I'm serious on that. Give me 2 chances for 1 measly yard. It's not that hard to get. And the stats are there to back that up, by the way. I got a little off topic. All of this to say. The Chiefs roster is better than you realize. The Chiefs roster is better than they get credit for. That is why they win these close games. That's all for this one. If you made it this far, thank you. I love you. I appreciate you. Please check and make sure you're subscribed. If you enjoyed the video, do me a favor and leave me a like. That is all for today. I'll be back tomorrow with Tread's Takes. We'll start talking about games for this week. Get into it a little bit. I'll see you tomorrow.